right there under masculine and really attractive. But gorgeous works too.
Especially it's really nicely too.
Thank you.
What's it made of?
This is actually made out of Rubbermaid trash barrels. My job at Lowe's Distribution Center out in Adairsville, they use a bunch of these things, and a lot of it gets thrown out, so I figured I could use some of them. And you can, just like Central Plastic, I don't know if anyone's ever worked with Central Plastic, you can heat them just a little bit, it makes them a little bit more malleable, dump them in some cold water, and they hold their shape. But eventually they kind of work back out. So I kind of tried to make the shapes with the curve of the barrel, and it fits nicely. I like to joke my wife has her corset, and I got mine.
How did you cut the pieces?
I actually use an X-Acto knife to scour or kind of score the edge of the piece that I wanted, and then just flex it, and it snaps.
Wow.
And then heat the edges to kind of clean it up a little bit more.
Okay.
So I was able to produce this fairly quickly. The hard part was sanding it, painting it, lacing it, and making sure it all fits together.
What would you say about your armor that is building your particular character?
Okay, well,
How are you expressing?
we got to go back for that one.
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone remembers that DreamWorks picture Epic. I got some nods, got some head shakes. Didn't really do well, but any movie, I recommend this movie, any movie that can make little tiny pixie people in samurai armor riding hummingbirds into battle against frog people, if any movie can make that look cool, it deserves to be watched. My niece and my nephew loved it. My son kind of pays attention to it because it's got nice colors. My wife loves it too. I really liked it. It was just a unique world and everything, and I loved the individual characters, and I was kind of looking at the armor, and I'm like, how can I make something like that? And I kind of became obsessed with the project to the point that a character started evolving from that obsession, and I started visualizing, well, what if it's not just a little girl visiting her estranged father? What if it is her brother who's coming back from the military, and he's done with the military, he's coming home, he's, going to live his life, but through a series of interesting events, he ends up getting shrunk down to pixie size, and he's got to learn, kind of like a Dances with Wolves kind of situation. He learns how to be a leafman, a protector of the forest, which his military background kind of helps and hinders at the same time. And I kind of used my own experience within the military to help build that character. So that's actually a point I can make, is using your own personal experiences that really make you as part of your character. So if you've got military experience, for example, or you have some interesting history in your family, or your family history, your ancestry, can also go towards building your character. So, anything?
I got things, I just don't know how to, it's not armor.
It's way cuter though, much more gorgeous.
Oh, no, she actually shot things, so, she's kind of cute but deadly. I am perfectly happy being called the most badass Red Riding Hood that anyone's seen. I'm perfectly happy with that. This is one of my, I took best single in a costume contest with it. This is my version of Red Riding Hood, and everyone knows Red Riding Hood, right?
Yeah.
I don't have to tell you the story. I think we all know. And there's so many different
versions. Don't tell me the ending.
Don't tell you the ending? There's so many different variations of it where, she ends up this, or she ends up this, or it's a whole other spiel on things. And my favorite version is written by a man called Roald Dahl. Does anyone know Roald Dahl?
Yeah. James and the Giant Peach.
He did a series called Revolt. Yeah? He did a series called Revolting Rise.
Exactly.
It's so nice to be in a room full of intellectuals.
I know. That's so great.
The BFG.
Yeah, BFG. But he did he did a little book thing called Revolting Rise. And so he took all these different things, and so it's like Cinderella, she doesn't actually marry the prince, he finds out that he's actually a serial killer, and so she marries somebody else. In his version of Red Riding Hood, she actually goes, "Oh, Grandma, what a pretty furry coat you're wearing." And she pulls out a revolver, kills him. The next time you see her, she's wearing a wool coat, wool skin coat. Same thing sort of happens with James Thurber. all of my characters I've designed close to 50 now, and they range everything from my original design to I need something in 3 weeks, you know, I don't know what to do. That's actually how my Star Sapphire was born. It was 3 trips to DragonCon and no one had a Star Sapphire. So fine, I'll do it. I have a pink kimono in my closet. Okay, fine. So she's, I built practically everything on her except for the undershirt. I didn't build this. I was lazy and I didn't want to waste time. But I even built her own basket. This is a shaker basket, so it's made out of pounded ash with a cherry handle. I am never making another one again.
You made a basket.
And I will never, ever make one again. Of course, I'll probably make one next week just because I said I'd never do it again. She also wears gloves. So you see the paw prints. And I actually made her boots, but I haven't sold them yet. Sold and not sold as in money,
Yeah,
sold as in sold. They haven't been yet. But they look like...
No, that's me. Are you kidding? I'm kidding. I have a soul. But my wife's not in here to confirm that. So.
Yeah, that's one thing. It's like, are you willing to pay for this? I'm not willing to sell my soul for it. But she actually had a pair of boots that I did too. So when I design a character, it's built sort of to my specifications because I'm a martial artist, so I like having the freedom of movement. So you will not usually see me in heavy armor. And if I'm in heavy armor and I can move in it, you might want to run if you do something you're not supposed to.
I'm standing right here.
And that's why I'm over here. So you won't see me in full armor plate usually. You'll see me in something more moving for it. And fiber work is my forte. I love doing it. I will sit there and scream for 20 minutes at Metal Filigree, just move! I won't do that. I just don't like it. No, it doesn't like me and I don't like it, so it's a mutual dislike.
So both of you have been inspired by like cultural art, these books, these movies, and you've been affected by them personally, and you've taken your skill sets and made something out of your imagination to fill these roles. I mean, it might be close to what you saw in the movies. This might be close to maybe what was depicted in words by Robert Dahl, but you both utilize your own particular idiom. And I just think this is awesome. The range that we're looking at here is really incredible. From the trash can material, which is an awesome material, it's a great material. And
yeah, if I hear the whole "you look trashy" look or joke one more time,
it only works if it's Oscar the Grouch, though. If Oscar does it, it's okay.
So you let your own personal skill sets direct where you take your costume. So everybody, that means you need to trust yourself and trust your instincts. And so this is what I like to do. I'm going to do it this way.
And create something that you love. Don't go with what's popular at the time. Because right now, Deadpool is really popular because of the new movie.
Oh, please.
I've seen Deadpool done to death in the last year or so, and it's not even original anymore. So if you got a deep-seated Stargate or Firefly, fandom that you're thinking, I can make a costume like this, but you go to a convention, it's like, what is that? Because the last time I wore this was at a smaller convention in Rome, Georgia, and it was always, oh, you're a samurai. I'm like, yes, but I'm actually a Leafman from the movie Epic, but no one knew that it was. But because the movie meant something to me, and the costume and character meant something to me, it kind of helped develop the character.
And that's another thing. I didn't bring her because I scare everybody. I do her. I scare everybody to pieces with it, and it's not intended to be scary. Has anyone seen the movie Coraline?
Yeah.
I do Coraline, and I have the button eyes. And I actually have them freestanding. It's just with some tape. So literally, I got the wig and everything, and all you see is the button eyes. I have made my own little me doll that she has.
You actually see me screaming out of this room.
Yes.
It is kind of interesting because that would be really creepy. The kind of thing that would just send shivers up your spine.
Yes. And it's a very simple costume. Basically, it was Okay, I already have a pair of jeans. I just need an orange shirt. But now I have figured out how to make her star sweater and actually have the stars glow in the dark. So that's my next little project.
You don't have to tell us your secrets unless you want to.
I'm not going to tell you how I'm going to do it. I'm just going to tell you I'm going to do it.
Fair enough. I would love to see it when it's done.
And something that kind of adds personal touches to your outfit is add things that kind of tell the story of your character. For example, the swords on this particular armor, the backstory is they were inherited from the person's trainer who was killed in battle. Other people might add little things. For example, I don't know who all has seen the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. I expected every hand to go, that's awesome, fantastic movie. The character Alan Quartermain, actually, the character is, he's supposed to have a very long life, but he wears a belt with bullets in it, but every so often you see there's a gap between those bullets. And the reasoning behind that is that they represent the gaps in his history. So any little touches like that you think you can add to it that kind of brings forth that little bit of a little pinch of their history just kind of adds flavor to the character. And even as a conversation started with someone asks like, well, why do you have this? And like, well, that represents this. And it really kind of gets people more engaged in your character. Create that history and really flesh out the character. If you just kind of show up and like, hey, here I am. People are going to get the whole, that looks cool. Yes?
So, in general, does the costume create a character, or does the character create the costume?
Yes. It can go both ways. You can create a character and then create a costume to personify that character, or as you're building a costume, the character evolves from that costume.
And that's the thing, it's like both, because sometimes you'll start with the character in mind and it just brings more into fruition. And sometimes it's just like, I want to do this.
Yes.
But how am I going to do this and actually make it significant? And piggybacking on what you said about the detailing, I'm sure everyone's heard and I'm probably going to get a lot of grief for it, the whole adage, glue gears on it and make it steampunk.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. And I am one of those.
She's not wrong.
Yeah. If you put on stuff to make it more punk or more this or more that, 9 times out of 10 you're going to detract from their character. Prime example is I also do a shadow from the radio show. Mine is it is a little bit movie based, but it's strictly radio based. She's also gender swapped. She's also only 16. No, she's 18. If Queen Victoria can run an empire, then my shadow can run around and do crazy things.
That's some serious subtext right there.
No, I live on subtext. But you have the hallmarks, like his armor. You know that you can tell that is
More like a clip note, really.
Yeah. But you can tell it's Sleepman armor, even though she's got the scarf, she's got the hat, she's got the pistol, she's got all that. But she wears in the summer she wears bloomers. Or got a couple all the time, and a cropped jacket. So, but it's taking the essence of the character and also making it your own. How many people have seen Batman? How many different incarnations of Batman have we seen? And it's, adding your own.
Goodness for the infinite universe.
Yes. I would love to see an Owlman. That'd be cool. And so it's just, and you'll wear it and you'll walk around it and go, okay, this isn't working.
Time for a change.
Yeah, this isn't working. My boot's gotten loose, or I can't bend this way, or I'm really getting tired of having to stop 5 minutes and fix this. So, back to the drawing board and fix it, or just go,
And your character kind of evolves when you make those repairs. For example, with this, I have a dark set of overalls and dark boots, but I also have, I guess the word is retrofitted, a dark mall, cheap costume robe, hacked the sleeves off shorter, kind of wore it underneath the armor too, so it kind of gave it a little extra sinister, almost, I guess, mentorish look to it. So as you're repairing, redoing, you'll come up with these different personifications of the same character, or could evolve into a completely different character.
This is not my first Red Riding Hood, and she is certainly not last. I have plans to do 2 more.
Again, thank goodness for the infinite universe.
Well, I mean, when you take a story like Red Riding Hood, there's so many different incarnations of it. So, You know, okay, well, she's going to do this. Oh, well, she's going to do that. So,
How many hours did it take you to knit that?
do you really want to know?
Actually, I do. It's so fabulous. I know it was a lot of hard work, but it was something that it resulted in this amazing thing.
No.
It took me
The
about...
best things in life require a lot of pain, a lot of sweat, and a lot of tears.
A lot of screaming.
And a copious amounts of swearing.
Yeah.
And especially if you work with hot glue and X-Acto knives.
With me, it's pins
You
and
forgot to
plastic.
Especially if you work with X-Acto knives. I guess the blood is implied.
If I were to take off these gauntlets and everything, you guys would think I'm a cutter. It's horrible.
See, I don't have that. But again, you'll see I'm missing the tip of one of my fingers because I took a knife to it. And actually, I was cutting something.
Badge of honor.
There it goes. The cape itself took me about 2 weeks. But that was also, and just straight knitting it. That's not playing it, find the right design. You know, these eyes took me forever to find that are on here in her ears. Took me about 2 weeks, but I worked on it pretty constantly. And now I do have a project that took me 9 months to do, and that is my Victorian parasol. I actually knitted my own cover.
Was that overall length of time, or you condensed like actual man hours?
Usually, if I'm working on something like this, it's by the time I get home from when I go to bed.
She works full time too.
And I work full time too.
I do too, but I don't have that much time to spare.
I don't either. Nothing says that I was actually, you know, I think I probably did my...
Anyways, moving on.
Have you ever built characters that just sprang out of your own head and not from a medium?
Yes. James, you and myself.
Okay, I'll get you a second.
One or two, a lot of characters kind of start and end on paper. I'm actually doing a panel on Sunday about some Star Wars Mandalorian armor. That character was completely original and evolved over time because I am obsessed with Star Wars. If my wife was here, she'd say amen. Star Wars was kind of like my saving grace back when I was a kid. I'm in the middle of 6 boys. They all preferred sports and hunting. I preferred Star Wars.
Yes.
There you go. It's a safe room. I can say that.
It's genetic.
I was obsessed when they first aired Firefly. Okay, I was kind of down to the pilot. But anyways, so I love the character Boba Fett in the movie, and it was only years later when I read. I think it was Karen Travis. Yeah, she wrote the Republic Commando series, and she fleshed out the Mandalorian culture. And I started creating this whole idea. It was like, wow, what I created, it's a whole culture. I can make my own. It doesn't have to be Boba Fett or Jango Fett. And it kind of spun out of control from there. Again, moved into the realm of obsession when creating a character. My breaks and my lunches at work, where I would be seeing, just scribbling in my notebook, trying to really give this character some depth. I'm sorry, what was the original question? Tangent! There we go.
Yeah, no, it was basically I just want to know what happens when you come up with a character on your own. I mean, because there are different constraints at work.
Oh,
you
yeah.
don't have a defined endpoint or even a range around a defined endpoint. It's completely open. How do you know when you're done? How do you know?
I don't think
I think you're ever done.
Do you find it more difficult? Do you find it more rewarding?
Well, here's the pros and cons of building your own character. My first character, and she is still by far my favorite, is my inventress. She was my first steampunk character. She is still my favorite steampunk character. But she is an original design out of my head. I am a scientist. That is my real job. I work in microbiology. I deal with parasites. So when I tell you I am working against the second zombie apocalypse, I am not joking. That is my actual job.
But when it happens, we can blame her.
I am from the government, so you can blame me, but you probably won't find me. I'm one of the peons that they'll probably throw out.
Because she created a shrink boy, and now she's living amongst the elitists.
Works for me?
Are you in the CDC?
I'm actually with the EPD. I want to get into the CDC.
Okay.
I'm with the Environmental Protection Division. So all of your water in Georgia, I test to make sure it's safe to drink. That is about as official as I can
And we're glad we're not in place.
You're not going to tell us that after 50 years that fluoride is going to kill us.
I deal with the living things, the metals and all that. That's a different department. I deal with the stuff that will make you very sick.
So you're local?
I'm local.
Oh, okay.
I'm local.
All right.
My inventress, back to
Yeah.
where I went on a tangent. So a lot of hers is, and they are very fun, but you gotta come back to home eventually. A lot of that is my scientific background in my head, and that was one thing that when I first started in steampunk, it drove me nuts. Is that you see people in, I'm an engineer and I'm an inventress, and their skirts cut up to here. I'm going, I really hope you don't drop anything hot, because that's gonna hurt. But I actually brought, these are my inventress goggles. So you can tell they're a little bit different. She works mainly with clockwork or things like that. But she is designed, basically myself, if I've been thrown back to Victorian time. Another thing that's sort of become like,
That's what we all wish.
yeah, it's sort of my homework now. Didn't realize that was going to happen, but it did. Is I tend to carry a lot of pets. I did not bring Y because I had enough of an menagerie problem in my house already. But Y is specific to my inventress. She is a gremlin. So if anyone's seen the movie Gremlins,
Don't get them wet.
don't get it. Well, she's green anyway, so it doesn't matter. But she's based on the Mobi from the original movie. That's why she's called Y. But she's also based on another Roald Dahl book where it talks about the RAF and how they were able to survive more because the gremlins got onto the German planes and started monkeying with the works and causing all sorts of problems. If you've seen the Twilight Zone episode with Shatner going, it's on the plane, it's on the plane. That's sort of the thing. But this is my other one. This is my wart. He's my hedgehog. And I had to go.
And it's not steampunk unless it has a mustache.
Well, it was, he doesn't usually have a mustache, but it was Old West, so he kind of demanded it. So, hence the mustache and hat. Usually he sits in my pocket and just runs around and causes us trouble.
So this is a good example. You have the scientist, and she's in a semi-Victorian setting, so maybe 120 years ago. But she also has this pet, which is completely unusual for the time.
In this my shadow has a Shih Tzu because she was training in Tibet, and this was in the whole problem with the British Empire and Chinese Empire. They were trying to converge into Tibet at the time, and she was just walking along, and she hears these rifle shots, and it's this British regiment basically killing off these Shih Tzu puppies that were for the Empress of China, and she does something she's not supposed to, and one of them runs under her riding skirt. She doesn't even know it's there because it's a big voluminous riding skirt until she hits the temple, and as soon as she crosses it, she feels something go against her leg.
So these little stories that we come up with can greatly affect the costume of your character.
Exactly.
Kind of going back to your original question.
Yeah.
A character can be as rewarding as you're willing to make it. I personally love creating, especially in my Star Wars Mandalorian character, creating the story behind him. Again, I got a military background, so I used a lot of my own experiences to create his character. I just kind of sci-fi'd it up a lot. And when you invest that much time, effort, and emotion into a single character, it's kind of like
It's like you're personally not your soul.
yeah, pretty much. I was just saying like an episode of General Hospital. You just don't ever want it to end.
Yeah.
But eventually, you might decide this character isn't good enough, so you decide to kill them off. Or they just continue to evolve. They continue to have more stories and more experiences. For me, my character story started, my Star Wars fans in the audience will get this, his character started just prior to the Clone Wars, and he served throughout the Clone Wars, and now that the Rebellion era is kind of getting a reboot with all the new movies, his story is continued. He's just a little bit older, a little bit more mature, and it's, I don't know, his character's probably just going to keep going on and on and on until someone shoves a lightsaber through his gut, because that's what all good Mandalorians do. They die with a lightsaber through their gut. Yes?
Well, they're doing so with it.
Or he cut himself out.
No.
So do you guys ever write these stories down? Or
Yes.
Yes. I don't think you can help not write the stuff down, because again, like you said, it's part of who you are, and you just kind of want to jot these little stories down, because I know I'll be at work and operating heavy machinery, and all of a sudden you're like, he did this!
And they're
While I'm operating heavy machinery.
And here's another thing that we do that I always get this a lot about, the difference between cosplay and costuming. Costuming is just the outfit. Cosplay is what you bring into it. It's all these little ticks, it's all these little things.
Accents.
I've done Red Death from Edgar Allan Poe. So if you've seen...
You personified Red Death?
I did, and I scared so many people with it. I thought it was kind of scary people. But she was a mashup between Victorian mourning and Venetian masquerade. So she had the really ornate skull mask with the red shawl and all everything was red.
So you put a feminine. Oh my God!
If you're a Neil Gaiman fan and you know who Death is, you understand why I did it. Then I wanted to make the shawl. But I'm just talking normally. That's no problem.
So again, I hope you don't mind. I'm going to ask you about this character, Rita. So the context is this ball, this heavily of all the rich and important and controlling, manipulative, better than everyone else, types of people in one location. And Death comes to visit. Yeah. And so Death dresses herself as what? To fit in, to stand out.
Well, that's the thing.
To be one of them, because truly Death is poor.
Exactly. It is. You never see the true face of Death until it is a minute after hour. If you guys know that movie that I'm quoting, you're awesome. I'm a big Vincent Price fan. But she, the way that I designed her, because I read that story a dozen times, is his personification of it is he is left in the cerements of the grave with a corpse-like face with the blood smeared all over it. So what I did is I turned it into more of a mourning thing. It's a very Venetian line. It's got the nice corset. It's got the long, full skirt and all that. But then you look into the shawl, and the shawl, and I brought it, I think, has skulls and crossbones and all this arsenic and old lace-style pattern into it. So it's subtle, and you don't see it until right that second. And so I can move around, no problem, until someone really stops and looks. And it's like, oh, that's Death. And that's another thing. I just talk normally to people usually, but with her, when people would ask me for a picture, you'd see this. I wonder if I can still do it. Give me a minute. And it's just a very story, very fluid, very thing here, and you're not worth my time. I know that you're here. It's almost like dealing with a Maleficent. It's those tiny little tweaks in that personality that makes it you. It makes it that character.
Angelina Jolie Maleficent or original Disney Maleficent?
I like the original Disney Maleficent myself because it's that real, they were looking for a baby this entire time. You idiots! It works. And that's the thing. And the good thing about wearing a mask is that you can become that a little better.
That's another thing when creating your character. For some reason, when you wear something that kind of obscures the human physique, face, body, whatever, it's easier to kind of take on that persona.
Yeah, because you're not going to get, and when I first started, I dealt with a lot of this, because I was coming from a historical standpoint, not look at me, I'm running around in a corset and a skirt.
That's an image.
Yeah. Well, that's not my personality. And I was doing this character, and I was doing it, and they're going, there were actually 5 buttons on his coat, not 4. And I just looked at him and smiled and said, yeah, and he was also a good foot taller than I am. So
costume Nazis.
Yes.
I'm sorry if there are any Germans in the room. I apologize.
Well, it's costume snobs. The whole it's a mouth shtick.
You get those in every group, and that's something your character is going to have to face when going to conventions. Are the character, the people who are obsessed with the character, and like, oh, you're doing it wrong, or
And
If
it's
any
like
members who are in the SCA know what I'm talking about,
Yeah.
the period Nazis.
Yeah.
My wife and I actually stopped going to certain.
Persona police.
Yes. We stopped going to certain things because these people were kind of like, you don't have the right tent with the right outfit, your armor doesn't do this right. I'm like, really? I thought, we're
I
here
go to
to...
World War II reenactment events, and people will
main
jack me
thing-
up about that.
I'm sorry, I'm just talking over you. What'd you say?
I'll go to World War II reenactment events, and there'll be, some people, they'll say, this is not right, that's not right.
Well, the thing is what I've noticed, and I'm so old and ancient, I know everything right, so I'm trying not to explain it to you.
Gonna let that joke slide?
But the thing is, that happens in every situation. It doesn't matter if you're programming or you're costuming. The people who are really, really striving to get where you are, they're really working to have, to really achieve something on their own, but they're scratching away at it like with rules and regulations and constraints to meet somebody else's expectation. When you're truly making a costume or a character, those constraints become meaningless.
Oh, that's one thing that kills me.
It's off point.
And that's one thing I love about steampunk, dieselpunk, cyberpunk. There are no rules.
And
We made a few.
You want to wear some goggles with some football pads? You do it, buddy. You want to walk around with a stuffed eagle on your arm? You do it, buddy, okay? You want a telescopic lens on your cane? You do it. It doesn't matter.
It's almost the Jonathan Livingston Seagull story.
Yeah,
You
and-
read books. I mean, I
Sorry,
know
that's my
it's an
baby.
old thing, but everybody judges the other seagulls by how well they do this or that or the other trick. But then when you really get good at it, there are no tricks. It's just how it feels while you're doing it. And it's just...
That's one thing that I've heard over and over, and this is mainly for women, so please do not throw tomatoes at me. I know I'm dressed in black. I really not have to deal with tomatoes, James. The assumption is you have to wear a corset. If you're doing steampunk, you have to wear a corset. Like,
It's not mandatory?
well, I mean...
I don't ever wear corsets.
See? I do have a few. I will admit that I do have a few. But it's not... I have a friend. She is wheelchair bound, or she has to walk on crutches. She cannot... Physically, it's difficult for her to move. But she wanted to do a character, and she wanted to do a historical character. And she's like, well, I was thinking about this. I'm like, a full hood skirt is not your friend.
Yeah.
It is not your friend. And I took a good look at her and all this other stuff, and I said, have you thought about doing Amelia Earhart? I've done Amelia Earhart. I did her as a time traveler because we don't know where she went.
That is amazing.
We don't know where she went, so she could be slipping through the time space continuum. Who knows? A doctor may pick her up. I don't know.
That's a character you guys can go home and marinate on right there. And inspiration can hit you like a ton of bricks anywhere you go. You're at a convention, you're at work, you're with your significant other, wherever you go. This guy hit me one night. I'm trying to get my nephew to fall asleep, and anyone who has kids knows what I'm talking about. And we're watching the movie Epic, and then I'm looking, I'm like, you know what? I can make that.
That's always a dangerous thing to say.
I know, because you don't realize the can of worms you just opened.
Yeah, and it's funny thing is, especially if you're around a costumer who bounces all over the place, it's like Doug
Where?
Yeah, see? It's like, I got it! And it's this rush, and they're going, what is wrong with you? It's like, I figured it out. I know how to do this now. It's like, oh wait.
I just have to use Velcro. Lots of Velcro. And everyone in here probably has had that moment too, whether it's I just need to put a little snap here. Boom. Done. Victory march around this quad, or I saw a hand go up over there. Or she's stretching.
But it's fun. Bouncing.
I was going to make a comment.
Okay.
What's nice about steampunk, which you've already mentioned that there are no rules, or find a book series that nobody's made a movie of.
Real time.
Yes.
Because, and a plug for JordanCon. And here in Atlanta also, it's a fun time. But
We have Brandon Sanderson. We have Brandon Sanderson
coming this time. And
He's done a steampunk series.
Thankfully, no one's done a movie or a TV series,
They've
so
tried.
there are no rules.
They've tried.
We get, and I say thankfully because of the costuming. Now Shannara's going, so we're going to be playing with Shannara costumes at DragonCon. And
I see plenty of Star Wars, Deadpool as a Shannara in my future.
Yeah. But you recreate what you think.
No, it's just
He was doing Deadpool 10 years ago.
Yeah.
No, it's a popular,
He was
popular
cool
thing.
and independent. Now he's mainstream.
Yeah, well, now we can't do it. He's got to, wait till it dies down.
And that's the thing is
Fight the system. Fight the system.
I tease all the time about Deadpool and stuff like that. It's not that he's bad, it's just that he's everywhere. It's sort of like, I want to say
Oh,
this.
now he's X-rated.
Yeah, and it's sort of like the Stormtroopers, you hit one and two more that pop up. It's like,
But
is that
now
too
we
hard
see,
in the line?
so it doesn't matter.
Giant Leia. For some reason, it's like,
She can save herself.
she did.
Women empowerment.
Hey, and she is actually the only one in the whole Skywalker family that has not been tempted by the dark side. And she said, all this bad stuff happened.
She had a crush on Han Solo.
Okay, that's what I am. But yes, I do. Yeah, we could go into the bad father and stuff, but we're not going to go into that. But yeah, I'm a Jordan Con person. That's what I do, and that's more of a medieval take. Jim's seen my wolf sister, so I wear the yellow contacts and freak everybody.
Something else we gotta point out real quick is right now steampunk is becoming more and more mainstream, which is amazing and a blessing, but it also
It's a curse.
it can be a curse because now, like you said earlier, you sell a couple years on everything, all of a sudden it's steampunk. What we've got to do as the original punkers, steampunkers, whatever you want to call it, is we've got to really receive these people with open arms and guide them on the right path.
And that's one thing.
We've got to encourage them. There are going to be a few, and they show up to every convention. They think they're doing steampunk, and you're kind of like, you know what? That's really not. But here, let me help you. It looks great. It's constructive criticism because you don't want to scare these people away. Because I know at my first convention, I was extremely nervous. I had a very horribly slapped together costume, even by steampunk standards, and. Fortunately, I met a group of people at AnachroCon who were like, oh, that looks really great. What's the inspiration? I'm like, I don't know. I just put it together. I'm like, oh, wow. Well, here, why don't you try, have you heard of this series? It's kind of modeled after your character. I'm like, oh, wow. Of course, then I came to the realization I was a steampunker for my entire life and hadn't realized it until then. But that's what we got to do. We got to encourage the younger crowd, or even the older crowd who are coming in, kind of realizing that this is the life for them.
And that's another thing is one of the big criticisms that we hear in steampunk is that it's a little too American and British Empire. There's not a lot of, hey, that is the main complaint that I have heard is it's too British and it's too the Great White Way. Pardon me using that horrible term.
I think that's a safe term in this room.
Yeah, but it's still a nasty term that should be used. But the thing is also when you're starting on a character, please do your research, especially if it's a culture that's not yours. I do a steampunk. She's half Japanese, Star Sapphire. So if you've seen pictures of me, I'm in the pink kimono with the hair and everything. But she's half. She's not full. And partially that was because, how terrifying would that be in Edo-era Japan of this woman having all this power, and she's only half Japanese.
Mm-hmm.
But
that was like Gaiju?
It is a Rashomon.
Rashomon.
Being called a Rashomon's daughter.
Gaiju's outsider.
Yeah. Gaijin outside foreigner.
American accent.
Yeah. Well, I have a Chinese.
She's right. Do your research. Be culturally sensitive. I remember not last year, but a year or two before that at AnachroCon, someone personified a steampunk Native American, and they did it beautifully. They were culturally sensitive. They weren't trying to be negative towards one side or the other. And it really comes across in the costume when you both respect your own character, but the culture that it represents.
And doing your research also tells you what you can change and what you can't. Prime example with the Native American is, and this is a funny story, is wearing eagle feathers. First of all, if you are not part of that culture, you should be wearing them anyway. Second of all, it's a very nice fine and 5 years in prison if someone catches you wearing real ones.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's good. Other things are good, just not equal. And that's a big thing, is knowing what you can get away with and what you can't. There was one, it was on my Facebook feed, I wish I remembered it, but he was wearing a Native American, and it was all, well, this is my own take, and if you don't like it, too bad, and it was, you're being disrespectful to the culture that you're portraying. And this is why I was like, well, I don't care, I'm going to do it this way. I don't think you all care.
No, right.
No.
As much as you want to make a character a certain way, you really got to be aware that other people want to appreciate your character too, and they can't or even won't if it embodies something that they well and truly hate, or encourages them to hate, I should say. For example, at a convention not too long ago, someone was dressed up as a Nazi. Not steampunk Nazi, not Inglourious Basterds Nazi, but straight Heil Hitler Nazi. And it really got under a lot of people's skins. Mine too. My grandfather was a World War II vet, and he told me the stories, and it was really something I was like, that really is not kosher, man.
Or you could
I've seen
slap
that
a Hail
at
Hydra
Dragon
symbol
Con.
over each one of
Yeah,
them.
do that.
Just a little slight.
A little, that you can even do some weird symbol of some other kind, or just change it somehow. Just, yes.
And I think context is important.
Yes, absolutely.
Costuming is not reenacting.
No, it's not.
Okay, if you're going, and another plug for World War II days, if you're interested, down at Falcon Field, Peachtree City. Pretty cool. And these guys spend a gazillion dollars on their uniforms and the equipment and all that stuff. I mean, it's serious. You're talking serious money, six-figure money.
I wish I had that much disposable.
And I'm not exaggerating. Not exaggerating. You'll see vehicles, tents, uniforms, weapons, the whole 9 yards. And they are absolutely authentic.
We actually, I think we had that group come through Cartersville a little bit.
They're wonderful. There's a German group which recreates actually an Austrian unit, which was incorporated into the German army during the Second World War, and now is still an Austrian unit. They fought at Stalingrad. They fought on the Russian front. Very distinctive, with distinction. But the same token, probably at DragonCon, if you want to wear a German uniform, leave off the swastika. I mean, there's ways you can do it.
Yes.
Yes.
And costume, because no one expects authenticity at DragonCon, really.
Except for the culture police.
Well, they have the culture police. But
Persona police.
Reenactment, yes.
The
DragonCon? No, not the heart of Atlanta.
It's context.
You got a question right here.
What I was going to say to his point is that you're right. You can be a World War II German officer, enlisted, whatever, but everybody who fought in the war for Hitler were not necessarily Nazis.
Exactly.
They were a political
No,
party. And in particular, one of the most famous generals, Rommel, the boy was brilliant as a general, but he wasn't a Nazi. And that's why he was eventually killed, because he wanted to get rid of Hitler, because he wanted Germany to win the war.
But at the same time, you shouldn't do authentic American military.
Yeah, there are actually laws in place that prevent you from dressing up.
But there are people who do it. They go and they go to, you know.
Some of those people we call stolen valor. So.
You have to find ways in your costume to make it clear what your character is. So that people know how to interact with you as your character.
And that's the thing. And the best one that I saw, and it's German, so sorry, that reminded me of it. It was a woman, and she was a theater troupe. And if you look into the old paintings of the Austrian nobility, they had that high ruffed collar and everything. So she was dressed in that style, but you could tell by the colors and everything that she was Austrian. I did see another one he was doing German. He was doing a German automaton. So he was in the black outfit. And so you knew it was German. You knew it was German by the way the lines were. But he had a computer screen on his head. So, and when he would walk, he would just walk in straight lines, and he'd do a 90-degree angle, and then he'd keep going, then he'd do another degree, and keep going. Yes.
Yeah, so I think.
So we want to open up the floor to some questions real fast.
Well, I just want to make one more point on this line, because this is a very important thing. When you're working with a character that has a lot of cultural overload on it, there are some very, very, very hard and serious assumptions made about characters within a particular genre, such as a Nazi character. You need to find a way to break through that genre to make it